Ultimate Tenkaichi is without doubt one of the most infamous games ever released in the history of Dragon Ball games, both for the right and for the wrong reasons. Now, the overall consensus of Ultimate Tenkaichi is that it's one of the absolute bottom of the barrel Dragon Ball games to ever release. But how exactly true is that statement? Today let's take a deep dive look into Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi and find out, was it really that bad? Starting out, you have the usual title screen and mode selection screen, as you'd find in most Dragon Ball games. Though that's excluding the Xenoverse series since Dimps somehow failed at basic game design. Anyways, you have the usual game modes as well as battle mode, trainer mode, tutorial options, customization, and hero mode, which I'll cover in a bit more depth later on. And of course, there is story mode. Like many of the Dragon Ball games before it, not everything has been unlocked from the get-go, and you're more or less required to dive into story mode in order to get your favourite characters. But overall, the menu and introduction are pretty solid. It's not too simple, and yet it's not too complex for the average player to understand. But since we're on the topic of story mode, let's discuss it in further detail. Unlike Raging Blast 2, which had next to no story mode, this game follows the traditional Dragon Ball Z story in an extremely weird manner. One example being you'll be beating the absolute piss out of the enemy fighter in gameplay, only for the game to act as if you're the one getting smacked around. It's a really odd transition from story to gameplay, and I do wish it gave us an option for what-if scenarios, sort of how Budokai Tenkaichi 3 did, in which you could kill Nappa as Gohan without pressing the story mode action button, and so forth. That way it'd make more sense in terms of you smacking around the enemy without it being awkward to transition into the story. Another instance is the voice acting. Now you might be wondering why I'm playing in Japanese rather than the English dub. This is because they reuse voice lines from both Raging Blast 1 and 2, while also recording new voice lines for this game exclusively. This translates rather well in Japanese, as the voice actors haven't changed in that time frame. As to the English dub,
it seems you've forgotten how powerful I am. Let me help you remember.
What amazing power! There's no way we can beat that!
Of course not. Did you think 3 ants could defeat a dinosaur?
yeah, you can see the results of that. There are many other instances, but the Frieza saga is where you'll be exposed to this horrible dub issue the most. Lastly, some of the cutscenes in the game have incredibly stiff or outright awkward animations. I get that they are trying to reuse assets and make do with what they have, but some of these are just downright hilarious due to how bad they are. Speaking of cutscenes, did you know that this game skips over 70% of the story via text paragraphs to catch you up on the story? Legit, you'll go from kicking Super Boo's ass as Gohan into a text box that 90% of players won't read, and then you're thrown into Vegeta vs Buhan. Repeat this about 15 times and boom, that's the story mode. It may come across as me trashing this game's story mode, but it's not all terrible. For example, this game completely reanimates some memorable moments from the anime, such as Gohan unlocking his potential, or Yajirobe cutting off Vegeta's tail, and so on. There's also these little chase sequences where you can either run away from the chaser or hunt someone down. There's cool little QTEs that you can do if they catch up to you, but these are pretty much just filler moments until you reach the finish. On the topic of QTEs, did I mention the boss battles? Yep, there are whole ass giant characters in this game, but most of them in the story mode are from the movies. They're not too intricate, mainly revolving around you dodging until the boss lets you smack them for a little bit before shoving you to a QTE scene. Some boss QTEs have a combination of 3 buttons, a mashing QTE, a timing QTE which you'll have to land a circle in the zone, and in small cases a 4-button QTE. You'll definitely struggle with these bosses the first go around, but you'll eventually figure out the patterns till you basically nullify the difficulty. Lastly, you can explore 2 hub worlds, Earth and the planet Namek. Earth allows you to fight random encounters or trigger story battles. Namek is barren to say the least. However, you can collect Dragon Balls in both hub worlds either by finding them in the world, random battles, or even competing in the world tournament for them. When you get all 7, you can summon Shenron or Porunga to get Piccolo Mantle. So basically visual or cosmetic items like stages and costumes. If you really want to 100% the game, or if you want to get every costume, keep an eye on that Dragon Radar when you have it. I've droned on enough about the story and its content, let's talk about the gameplay itself now. Ultimate Tenkaichi's gameplay is infamous for all the wrong reasons. Like when you ask someone how it plays, there's a 90% chance they'll call it the rock, paper, scissors Dragon Ball game. So however, this is a half-truth. There are two options when you start a combo in either blast or melee range, which is just basically long or close range. If you choose X or square, depending on your controller, you'll rush down the enemy in a semi-cinematic fashion and drain their ki meter down. Or if you choose Y or triangle, you'll send the enemy flying and sometimes get a small cutscene finisher out of it. Now this combo helps fill up your super attack gauge near the health bar. I'll talk about this in a second. But the best way to compare the combo gameplay in Ultimate Tenkaichi is to compare it to the Rising Rush mechanic from Dragon Ball Legends, in the way that you have to guess the card that's been chosen to stop the combo from progressing. Now that same mechanic applies here. If you pick square and the enemy picks square as well, you will get countered. The only way to progress a combo is by pressing whatever button the enemy didn't pick, and in a game of input reading AIs that doesn't translate very well at times. However, if you manage to start the combo on the enemy's back, you can actually rob them of their chance to counter whatever you're doing and pommel them. So the game basically becomes this frantic mess of you playing hit it from the back simulator so that you can bypass the bad AI's RNG. You can charge ki to fill your ki meter, gaining access to different icons depending on how full your meter is, which I'll discuss in a second. If you charge your meter all the way, you have the option to activate Strike Booster. This is basically your get out of jail free card in this fucking game. You're given mild super armor, your damage is almost doubled, you bypass the guessing game, and you even have a special follow-up cutscene for each combo. The square combo is a very dramatic and close quarters finisher with the triangle combo, just send you flying to some rocks. So you can't do the triangle combo one on the World Tournament stage and among other stages, so you just do the square combo finisher instead. Once you've filled up enough of the meter in the top left, you know, the super attack meter I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to do one of two super attacks. Depending on the conditions, such as being in melee or blast range, you'll get a small cutscene of your character preparing to do the move or launching the blast. Now remember the icons from earlier. The first one is guard, and you know, that's pretty self-explanatory to be honest. You can reduce the damage you receive slightly by blocking, but don't think this is a get out of jail free card, as you could still die even if you block in a super attack. Evade allows you outright avoid the attack, but the QT itself is so fundamentally broken that you'll only ever see the AI pull this off successfully. Lastly, you have intercept, which is essentially your only way of avoiding the damage whilst fighting back. If you win, you will stop the attack and deal a free and easy 5000 damage. If you lose, the damage slightly increases against you, and well, you'll be a bit shit. Depending on the super attack, you'll see a small cutscene showing the environmental damage the attack has caused. However, some stages just don't have this feature. I'm assuming they just didn't have the budget or the timescale for it. If you lower your enemy's health, or your health is low enough, you'll enter critical mode. There's nothing too special about this except for the fact your super attack meter can be filled to a full bar now, and thus gives you the chance to get an ultimate attack, which can be used to turn the tide or finish the enemy off. Ultimate attacks are no different from super attacks in terms of reactions, except evasion is much harder to pull off now. Ultimate attacks do huge damage and either spell the end of the match, or are a sign of a comeback. Overall, the gameplay is an absolute chore. Sure, it's a beautiful and brilliantly sequenced chore, but when you start seeing that same animation over and over and over again, you start to get bored and the game becomes tedious. It gets especially annoying when you come across bugs and glitches. In multiple instances, the absolute pain of mashing the 4 buttons on my controller sometimes doesn't even register properly. Or when you win a clash and go for a triangle combo, they get sent into a wall and the combo gets put on hold. Hell, the AI is so bad, they can't even hover upwards to stop you from exploiting a free charge point. At one point, I just abused this exploit to get the AI to charge up to full meter, so that way the AI would stop my super attack and start a beam clash to make things more interesting. If I have to rely on abusing exploits just to get some level of diversity in the game, that's horrible game design. So yeah, the gameplay is beautiful, but it's fucking abysmal. 3 out of 10. Anyway, let's move on to our last point of interest, hero mode. Hero mode is basically the Build-A-Bear workshop, but with sayings slapped on it. You can either pick Standard, Midget, or Standard with angry eyes. Standard is basically any normal mid-sized character in the game, like Goku or Piccolo. Light is the shorter end of the cast, such as Gotenks or Krillin, and heavy is the more brutish members like Broly or even Omega Shenron. As for the customization, it is extremely lacking until the endgame. You barely have any options till you beat the story in hero mode. Thankfully, the cosmetics from your first save will transfer over to the other classes, so there's that. Plus, this game actually has unique Super Saiyan hairstyles, unlike Xenoverse 2, who still to this day has decided a Super Saiyan reskin is a higher priority than immersive character design. Regardless, the story for them is the same. They're a Saiyan in an alternative universe where chaos has run rampant, and our character sets out to stop it by gathering the ultimate Dragon Balls and changing the world to normal. It's a very messy plot overall, but it's not terrible, so I'll give it a pass. I mean, how many other Dragon Ball games that you square up with a fucking Shenron on? Oh, also Baby Vegeta's a boss fight in this game too. What's cool about Hero Mode is that there's this RPG element implemented where you can equip items and level up aspects of your character to make them stronger through fighting random encounters or story battles. It's a fun system, but tediously slow, and honestly it becomes a drag after a while. You can collect new skills, auras, items, even fighting styles via the Masters system. You basically just beat up this character 6 or more times and get rewarded for it. Overall, Hero Mode can be quite tedious and even outright annoying at times, but it's a very fun experience to go for the first time around, so I'd give it a shot if you have Ultimate Tenkaichi lying around somewhere. Overall, Ultimate Tenkaichi is buggy and quite frankly an absolute mess. So many issues arise with this game, and yet, I don't know, I just really love it. I don't know if it's my childhood bias playing a factor into things, but this game is just dumb and simple fun. I could jump into it whilst I wait for food, or mess around doing beam clashes in training mode. It's not a great game, sure, but I wouldn't say it's bad. At least it's somewhat playable, unlike a certain game I know. You know, I'm looking at you.
What the hell is wrong with you?
But yeah, Ultimate Tenkaichi is not as horrible and terrible as people has made you believe. Sure, it's painfully mediocre, but its visuals and remastered cutscenes still hold up to this day. It's a beautiful ball, but it's a really decent time if you give it a chance. Thanks for watching this video lads, and I guess I'll catch you in the next one.